Most people go to national parks to get away from things. No noise, no crowds, no distractions, just quiet trails, fresh air, and miles of untouched forest. But sometimes, that silence isn't peaceful. Sometimes, it feels like something is missing. Or worse, like something is watching. This happened about 3 years ago when I went on a hiking trip with 4 of my friends. There were 5 of us in total. We had picked a national park that was a few hours away from where we lived. It wasn't one of the more popular ones, which is exactly why we chose it. We wanted something quiet, somewhere we could just hike, camp, and relax for a weekend. When we got there, everything felt normal. The air was cold but not uncomfortable. It was one of those crisp autumn mornings where you can see your breath if you exhale slowly. The trail we picked wasn't too difficult, and there weren't many people around. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't remember seeing anyone else at all. At the time, it didn't feel strange. If anything, we liked it. It made the whole place feel more untouched. We started hiking a little after 9 a.m. The trail was quiet except for the sound of our boots hitting the dirt and leaves. Every now and then you'd hear birds somewhere in the distance, but even that felt spaced out, like the forest was unusually still. About halfway through the hike, we stopped for a few minutes to rest. That's when Daniel stepped off the trail. It wasn't anything dramatic. He didn't wander far. Maybe 5 or 6 feet into the trees. He said he saw something he wanted to take a picture of. I think it was just sunlight coming through the branches at a weird angle. None of us thought anything of it. We were still talking, joking around, and then we realized he hadn't come back. At first, we assumed he was messing with us. Daniel was that type of person. Always joking. Always trying to get a reaction out of people. So we called his name. What? Then again. Nothing. We laughed a little, expecting him to jump out from behind a tree or something. But after a few more seconds, the laughter stopped. Because the forest didn't respond. No footsteps. No movement. No voice. Just silence. We spread out slightly, looking around the immediate area. Still staying close to the trail. Calling his name louder now. Daniel? All right, man, stop messing around. Nothing. That's when the feeling started to change. It wasn't panic yet. Just uneasiness. About 20 minutes passed before we found his backpack. It was just lying there in the dirt. Not placed down. Not set aside. It looked like it had been dropped or thrown. One of the straps was torn. I remember one of my friends picking it up slowly, like he didn't want to touch it. Inside was Daniel's water bottle, his phone, and something else. There was a dark smear along the inside of the bag. At first I thought it was mud, but when I got closer, I realized it wasn't. It was blood, and it looked fresh. That's when everything changed. The uneasiness turned into panic almost instantly. We started shouting his name again, but this time there was no joking behind it. We were yelling, running a little deeper into the trees, then pulling back to the trail. No one wanted to go too far in. Something about leaving the trail suddenly felt like a very bad idea. Eventually, we made the decision to go back. As fast as we could. I don't think any of us said it out loud, but we all knew something was seriously wrong. When we reached the ranger station, we were out of breath and talking over each other, trying to explain what happened. But the reaction we got wasn't what we expected. The ranger at the desk didn't look surprised. He just listened, quietly. Then another ranger came over. They both exchanged a look. Not confusion. Not concern. It was something else. Something like recognition. One of them finally said, "You shouldn't have gone off the trail." The way he said it felt off. Not like advice. More like a warning that came too late. We asked if they were going to send out a search team. Dogs. Helicopters. Anything. But instead, they told us something I'll never forget. Leave the park. That was it. No urgency to help. No questions about where exactly it happened. Just leave. Now. We didn't know what to do. Driving home didn't feel right. But staying didn't feel safe either. In the end, we decided to stay one more night near the trailhead before leaving in the morning. Looking back, that was probably a mistake. That night we sat around a small fire. No one was really talking anymore. Every now and then someone would say something about Daniel, but the conversations never lasted long. It felt like we were all thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. At some point, when the fire was starting to die down, we heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Moving somewhere just beyond the trees. We all froze. No one said anything. We just listened. The steps circled around us. Not rushing. Not stumbling. Deliberate. Like whatever it was, knew exactly where we were. One of my friends whispered that he saw something. A shape. Standing between the trees. Tall. Too still. Watching. And that's when it hit me. Daniel didn't just wander off. He didn't get lost. He didn't fall. He was taken. We stayed up the entire night. No one slept. The footsteps eventually stopped. But none of us felt safe. We left as soon as the sun came up. No one said a word during the drive home. Daniel was officially listed as a missing hiker. No body was ever found. No investigation went anywhere. It was like he just disappeared. But the part that still bothers me is the way those rangers reacted. Like they already knew. Like it had happened before. So if you ever find yourself hiking in a place like that, and you feel the urge to step off the trail, even just for a second, don't. Because out there, you might not be alone. And whatever is watching might already be waiting. This happened to me about a year ago during a short trip I took by myself. I wasn't planning anything fancy. Just a cheap weekend away from the city. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I could relax and get away from work. I ended up booking a small Airbnb in a town I'd never been to before, somewhere around the corner, not too fancy but filled with touristic sight and beautiful environment. It was listed as a cozy private home, at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by trees. The pictures looked normal. Nothing too special. But also nothing that raised any red flags. And the price was almost too good. Looking back, that probably should have been my first warning. I arrived just before sunset. The house was exactly where the listing said it would be. Isolated. No nearby neighbors that I could see. Just trees and a long stretch of empty road. The host was already outside when I pulled in. Standing near the front porch. Waiting. At first they seemed friendly. Very friendly. Too friendly. They greeted me with this wide smile that didn't really go away. Even when they weren't talking. Just stayed there. Like it was fixed. They offered to help with my bags even though I didn't have much. Then they insisted on showing me around the house. Every room. Every detail. Felt less like a tour. And more like they were making sure I saw exactly what they wanted me to see. At one point they casually mentioned they could cook dinner for me. I tried to politely decline. But they insisted. Said it was part of the experience. I didn't want to be rude, so I agreed. Dinner itself wasn't strange. But the way they watched me eat was. They didn't really talk much. They just sat across from me, smiling, watching. After that, I went to my room. Locked the door. Or at least, I thought I did. It wasn't until I was getting ready for bed that I noticed something strange. The lock on the door wasn't on the inside. It was on the outside. At first, I told myself maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe it was just an old door. Maybe it had been replaced or installed wrong. But the more I looked at it, the less sense it made. That night I couldn't sleep. Not fully. I kept waking up to sounds in the hallway. Footsteps. Slow. Back and forth. At one point I heard something else. A faint scraping noise. Like metal dragging lightly against wood. It wasn't loud. But it was just enough to keep me awake. I remember sitting up in bed. Just listening. Trying to figure out what it was. That's when I noticed the air vent above the door. There was a small gap in the metal. And inside that gap, I saw it. A tiny red light. At first, I thought it was just something reflecting. But when I moved slightly, it stayed in place, steady, watching. That's when it hit me. It wasn't a reflection. It was a camera. I didn't sleep at all after that. I just lay there pretending to sleep, trying not to move too much, trying not to react. The next morning, the host acted completely normal, like nothing had happened. They greeted me the same way. Same wide smile. Same calm tone. They asked if I wanted them to drive me into town. Said it would be easier than taking my own car. I told them I preferred to drive myself. That's when I saw it. Just for a second. That smile. Slip. Only for a moment. But it was enough. Later that day I checked the Airbnb listing again. Something about everything just felt off. I started scrolling through the reviews. At first, everything looked fine. Old reviews. Positive comments. Nothing unusual. But then I noticed something. The dates. There hadn't been a new review in months. Not just a few weeks. Months. And yet, the listing was still active. Still accepting bookings. That's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. People had been staying here. But no one was leaving reviews. I went back to the house immediately. Packed my things as fast as I could. Didn't even bother organizing anything. I just wanted to leave. But when I got to the front door, it wouldn't open. At first I thought it was just stuck. But then I noticed the lock. It had been changed. From behind me I heard movement. Slow footsteps. Coming from the kitchen. Then their voice. Come. Almost amused. You're not going anywhere. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. You're mine now. I don't remember exactly what happened after that. Only pieces. Running. Breaking something. Getting outside somehow. What I do remember is not looking back. Not even once. I reported everything. The listing was taken down shortly after. But nothing else really came of it. No arrests. No real investigation. Just silence. A few months later I checked again. Out of curiosity. The house was back online. Same location. Different name. Different host photo. And new availability. So if you ever book a place somewhere remote, and something feels off, even just a little bit, trust that feeling. Because not every place you stay is meant for guests. Some of them are meant for something else. Most people who take the subway every day stop noticing the people around them. It's just routine. Same train. Same faces. Same silence between strangers. You sit down, keep to yourself, and wait until your stop. After a while, everything just blends together. That's why it took her a few days to notice him. She had a pretty normal routine. Wake up early. Catch the same train every morning. Sit in the same general area. Nothing special. It was predictable, and that's what she liked about it. The first time she noticed him, it didn't seem important. He was just sitting across from her, looking in her direction. Not directly staring. Just looking. Long enough to feel slightly uncomfortable. But not long enough to say anything about it. She looked away. Assumed it was nothing. Because in a place like that, it usually is. But then she saw him again the next day. Same train. Same time. Same seat across from her. This time he didn't look away when she noticed. He just kept staring. Completely still. She shifted in her seat. Looked down at her phone. Tried to ignore it. When her stop came, she got off without looking back. But she could still feel it. That feeling of being watched. The next morning, he was there again. Only this time he wasn't sitting across from her. He was closer. Just a few seats away. She told herself it was a coincidence. It had to be. People take the same trains every day. It didn't mean anything. But then something changed. As the train moved between stations, she heard it. A voice. Quiet. Barely above a whisper. At first she thought she imagined it. But then she heard it again. Her name. Soft. Almost like someone was testing it. She froze. Slowly looked up. He was looking directly at her. Not blinking. She didn't say anything. Didn't react. She just waited for the next stop. And got off early. After that, she started changing things. Different train. Different time. Different part of the station. Anything to avoid him. But it didn't matter. No matter what she changed, he was there. Sometimes already sitting down. Sometimes standing on the platform. Always watching. And always closer. She stopped taking the subway for a few days. Tried using rides instead. Tried walking. Anything to break the routine. But eventually she had to go back. And when she did, he was waiting. Like he knew exactly when she'd return. That's when she went to the police. She explained everything. The staring. The whispering. The way he kept showing up no matter what she changed. But the response wasn't what she expected. They told her it wasn't enough. No threats. No physical contact. People notice each other on the subway, they said. She left feeling worse than before. Because now, she knew no one was going to help her. A few nights later, something happened that made everything worse. She came home from work later than usual. Tired. Distracted. When she reached her apartment door, she noticed it was slightly open. Just enough to make her stop. She was sure she locked it that morning. Slowly, she pushed it open. Everything inside looked normal at first. Nothing broken. Nothing missing. But then she noticed something small. Her clothes. A few things were out of place. A jacket she hadn't worn in weeks was hanging by the door. A drawer that she always kept closed was slightly open. It wasn't obvious. But it wasn't right. Someone had been inside. She didn't stay that night. She left. Stayed somewhere else. Didn't go back until the next morning. And even then, she didn't want to. But she needed things from her apartment. On the way there she took the subway again. Reluctantly. And of course, he was there. Already sitting. Already watching. But this time, he was smiling. Not wide. Not exaggerated. Just enough to feel wrong. In his hand, he was holding something. A photograph. At first she didn't recognize it. But then she looked closer. and her stomach dropped. It was her, lying in her bed, asleep. The angle was from inside her room. She got off the train immediately. Didn't wait for her stop. Didn't look back. She never took the subway again after that. She moved, changed everything. New apartment, new routine, new number. But sometimes, late at night, she still hears something outside her door. Footsteps, slow, familiar. And every now and then, she wonders something she can't shake. If he could find her once, what's stopping him from finding her again? Because some people don't just watch from a distance. They follow. And once they know where you live, you're never really alone.